Yes, hello and welcome to Further Together, enriching relationships, creating a better future. With your friends here, Kudzie and Priscilla.
Yes, that's right. Thank you so much for joining us on yet another episode on Further Together. We are so excited to be on this platform tonight. Last week, we had to take off.
Yes, I had a serious cough. I didn't know what to do, and
Yeah.
I felt as if something is right on my throat, and it pushed me to test COVID probably more than 6, 7 times during that week. I had to go for the PCR test. I had to go, and when it was worse, I even went to the NE to the hospital, and they also tested COVID.
Yes, but
Thank God.
Mm.
It was negative.
Yes.
So it's good to be back again. And once more, shall I say thank you so much for tuning in. If you're joining us for the first time, we're Further Together. We are here every Thursday, 8 p.m. UK time. And if you're watching as a replay, we also have a number of episodes that we have covered, which you can also see where we were presenting, and we also had guests.
Yes, guys, I just want to take this platform to say thank you so much. A lot of you guys were texting, when we put out the message that we are not going live yet last week, and many were concerned. Are you okay? What is going on? So thank you so much for the love. Thank you for the prayers. Thank you for the support. We love you dearly.
Finally, I'm alive. Thank God. We have been speaking about communication in the past episodes, and we have received messages. And I believe there's one message which you also saw here, and somebody was saying, what if my spouse is not talking?
Yeah.
We were talking about, ironing issues, having discussions which are more deeper. And somebody says, what if, or a number of people were saying, what if my spouse is not talking? And we have come to discuss the topic, why your spouse is not talking. Yes, Mr. Mazigatiri, how are you? I'm good. I'm strong. I'm fit.
Yes. Thank you for checking on us.
Yes,
we really appreciate
thank you so
that.
much. Thank you for checking on us. Yes, it was a little bit tough on my side, but thank God I'm there now. So if you are there, would you be kind enough to share with friends and family so that they also enjoy this session? We are going to have this into 2 segments this week and next week. So we are covering the topic, why my spouse is not talking. And we are not just talking about silence treatment, but we are talking about when they are not calling you to sit down and iron out issues and get into that deeper discussions.
Yes, and what we've rightly said from the previous episodes is that communication, good communication, and I mean effective communication, is essential in any marriage. If you want to build that understanding and strong emotional connection, then there has to be good communication.
Yeah.
But sometimes we get to moments where you feel like your spouse is not talking, your spouse is not communicating. And like what you've rightly said, that we are not talking about silent treatment in this episode. That is a totally different phenomenon, which we can come back to address on another issue on other days. But we are talking when your spouse is not communicating, when your spouse is not talking, when they're not talking about the things that are important for building your emotional and strong connection. So what do you do when you feel disconnected, when you feel like my spouse is so far away? We've had those moments where you were feeling neglected, and you felt like we were disconnected, and you felt like I was not talking, and there was this huge gap between us. And one thing that we have to understand is that it is very important, it is very key for us to share our thoughts and our feelings in a relationship. You can't be with somebody and not share what you're feeling and not share your thoughts. Because if you don't do that, then you are never going to build a strong emotional connection. So the question here is, why is my spouse not talking?
Yes, and we are going to, like I said, it's a two segment topic. So this week we are covering
Just a
segment
few
one,
points, yeah.
a few points. Then we will be coming again next week to cover more segments.
Yes,
The
and
second segment.
we're just going to highlight as well, if you have any topics, if you have any points, please do bring them on so that we can all learn from each other. So number one, why your spouse is not talking. The first point is you're probably failing to make the time. Failure to make time for having meaningful conversations.
Like we said in our previous topics, that there is pseudo, whereby somebody is just sitting and they pretend as if
they're listening.
Yeah. We also have a challenge whereby when you are the one who is right on the command, you are commanding, you are calling the shots, that will not give the other person enough time to communicate, because you are just there to call the shots. This is more, if we are going to discuss, to put it in a stereotypical manner, it's more with women that they normally say, oh, my husband doesn't talk, my husband doesn't communicate. And we have received that a lot. But why is my husband not communicating? And they don't make time. There is no time for us to sit down and say, hang on, let's do this. Because with women, they can just scream from the kitchen and they keep on saying what they are saying, whether they are driving. And with men, sometimes we want to sit down and we want to do our things according to stages.
Absolutely. So guys, a failure to make time, this is a big one. Sometimes we find ourselves just getting busy for nothing, just in and out. Sometimes you're living with a spouse and you're not finding the time, either you're busy with your work, you're busy with the cares of life, and you don't get time to sit and have meaningful conversations. For me, I liken it to the same time that we need with our children as well.
Yeah.
Because children don't speak in a rush. You don't expect to just sit with your child and the next minute they are telling you everything about, what is going on with them. So if you're going to build that, we need to make sure we make time. So let's quit all the busyness. I'm busy with work, I'm busy with that, and make time. And the thing about it, it just doesn't happen.
We have to create it consciously. We have to plan it to say, okay, can we sit down on this day and talk? And we put away the mobile phones, we put away, we switch off the TV. So we sit one-on-one, one-to-one, face-to-face. And we start to discuss, then you will start to hear those deeper conversation coming out. Why? Because there is no there are no disturbances. There is nothing that is coming in our way, that text message, oh, I need to reply this, I need to do that. Everything else aside, let's make an appointment and sit down and sort it out.
And this one, it goes to pastors, if you're watching, if you're ministers of God, sometimes they can hide behind the Bible, like get busy with the Bible and fail to make the time that is necessary to build that intimacy. And you'll be like, with their own spouse, like, why is my spouse not talking? Why? Because you're busy. You're not taking time to stop and listen. I think we shared in some of our in one of our interviews about something that happened to us few years back, but it took us years to finally resolve,
come to a conclusion in understanding that this is what we are talking about.
Why? Because each time we were failing to make time. When the issue came up, I would just be busy. So let's stop and listen, make time, plan, and have those effective conversations.
So it's planning it, you prepare for it, then you protect it.
Absolutely.
We set a date, we prepare, we protect the date, that nothing is going to come on this date. Even if you call us, we'll tell you we cannot come, we are busy because we have a meeting, we want to solve our own things. Don't rush to go and solve things out there when you yourself haven't solved the issues in your own house.
Yes. Absolutely, Elder Gabriel, thank you for your comment. The gadgets and busy life, they've really affected our intimacy. That is so true.
Mr. Ruler, you are right.
You know. Oh, that's Mr. Chitonga. Yes, that's absolutely right. So the busyness, let's just get rid of it And I think Nelson Madzikatire also mentioned that maybe the husband they won't talk because they have given up hope. That is a very valuable contribution. Thank you for sharing that.
It's one of the points that you are also going to touch. You know, people who have given up because they don't feel accommodated.
Yes, that's absolutely right. If you have more, just keep them coming. The second point: why is my spouse not talking? Point number one: failure to make time. They're probably not talking because you're not making time. The second thing may be in physical or emotional energy. If they feel drained physically or emotionally, they may not be able to talk, because really you have to be in that good set of mind, mentally, physically, and emotionally, to be able to be open enough and transparent enough with your spouse.
And that also goes on to those who, when they are talking, they will say, let's talk about it now. It's now or never.
Now, me, I was the now person.
I'm not that kind of a person. I respect the Bible verse which says, be angry, sin not, do not spend
do not let the sun go down in your anger.
Go down in your anger. And I, for one, am one person. I do not want the sun to go down. But on the other hand, if I feel like it's now up to here, I cannot keep on talking. I would rather say, babe, let's hang on, go sit down, so that when you are coming, we don't scream. We are not discussing at the top of our voices, but you are here and I'm here. We hear each other. We talk in a sober mind. We are doing things in a soberly manner.
And this really took me a lot of years to just understand that it's okay, you know, to know that maybe your spouse doesn't feel like talking now. It's okay. You know, everybody has to be in the right state of mind, also physically and emotionally, to be able to pour out. And it's okay if they don't feel like talking. It's okay if they are physically tired. You know, don't nag him or nag her that we must talk, like let's stay up all night and talk. So, you know, sometimes your spouse may not be talking because physically they are tired. Emotionally, they are drained. They're probably stressed.
Remember, we were talking to one person, and they were having a discussion with their spouse, and they later on looked at their spouse and say, you know what, I've been listening to you, but I wasn't hearing you because I'm dozing. Yes, I'm dozing. I wake up 5 o'clock, you wake up 7 o'clock. So we have a 2-hour difference. So as I'm sitting right now, I'm just looking at you, but I can't hear anything. And the other person was talking and talking and talking. They didn't look at. So when you are in that mode where the other person is physically and mentally drained, it's you who will be talking. They will never answer you. So you'll be surprised. Why are they not talking? Why? Because many times you want to speak to them, they are physically and mentally drained.
I'm tired. So do you know what? It's better to just postpone it, leave it for the now, and set up a time, set up a date where you can obviously come back to it. We are not advocating for being silent for 2 months, silent for a month, but just understand that sometimes your spouse is not talking because physically they are drained, emotionally they are drained, mentally they are drained, and we are here to help each other as spouses.
That's very true. We want to help each other, and when we are setting it aside, like what Priscilla have said, that we can set it aside for another day. Let's put it in our diary. Don't just say, "Oh, babe, I can't talk now," but let's say, "Babe, I can't talk now. Is it possible for us to speak about this tomorrow after
at a
dinner?"
Time. Yes.
Then the other person also prepares for it. They know that I'm not just being pushed aside. Like, you know, my daughter said to me one of the days, "Dad, I'm not going to ask you about this." I said, "Why?" "Because you always say not now. And you never told me, you never tell me when are we going to do it." So it's not now, princess, not now, princess. So when we are, or if we are to file something, put it aside, let's create the time and say we cannot speak now, but Can we make a date? Say Tuesday, I won't be going to work, so I'm here all day. Tuesday afternoon, let's speak. I'll be fresh and you'll be fresh, and we can iron it out.
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, it's all about having meaningful conversations. So if your spouse is not able to say, it's okay. If you're not able to listen, it goes on to listening as well. If I'm not in the right state of mind, physically, emotionally, to listening, then there's no point having the conversations. So are both of us in the right space for us to have a conversation that is meaningful? So your spouse, number one, may not be talking because we are failing to make the time. And it is both the spouses that will need to cooperate to make sure that we make the time. And the second thing, like we mentioned right now, that sometimes your spouse, they're not in the right physical or emotional state to talk. And the third thing that we're going to talk about is differences. Gender.
Now this is a massive topic. Why? Because to start with, we'll start with gender difference. We are wired differently. Biologically, we are different. So is our communication skills. Why? Because we belong to two different planets, like what John Gray would say, men are from Mars and women are from Venus. So that he also classifies certain attributes that are in the feminine, which are not found in the masculine. So those things now makes the other gender to just feel like I'm communicating, and yet they are not communicating. They are actually nagging. So you will be surprised. Why is it? Because there's gender difference. To you, communication is to him is we need to sit down. We need to be articulative in everything that we do. So there is that gender difference. Let's look for it. Is it not gender difference? Is it that he doesn't want to speak, or I'm just being a woman and he's just being a man?
Absolutely. And us women, generally research shows that we tend to express our feelings more than men do. Sometimes men feel like it is womanly for me to sit with my wife and tell them that, babe, I'm going through A, B, C, D, E. You feel like I'm being a woman.
I'm the father, so if I always say, if my son is crying, my wife is crying, and I start crying, then who console each other here? We'll wait for the dad next door to come and say, no, Mr. Coffee, don't worry, things are good.
So really, those differences, we need to take them to consideration, but not saying that if you are a man, you're going to die in silence and not open up. You need to be vulnerable, at least to your wife. You know what? We are not saying go to the world and share all your feelings or your thoughts with the world, but with your spouse. Do you know what? Be vulnerable with your spouse. And one thing as well about men, they love peace. They love to dwell in peaceful environments.
Definitely.
There's one of your favorite scriptures which says, I think it's in Proverbs, which says that it's better to stay on top of a roof than to live with a nagging woman, with a rolling woman.
Proverbs 21 verse 9. I like the Message Bible, which says it's better to live in a crumbled shack than to share a mansion with a quarrelsome woman.
So yes, men love peace, and we are aware of that some men may end up not talking for the fact that, I just want to keep my peace. But really, that's not the right thing to do. And Mr. Kundoro has made a comment there.
Could it not be used against you in the future? That a man always cry. Yes, don't be a crybaby. We're not talking about being a crybaby here, but we're saying, when it comes to certain issues, sit down, pour out your emotions. It's not in everything, but those things that are critical. Yes, if you become a crybaby, then we send you to nursery. the man next door will come and be the father of the house. But there are moments whereby you need to sit down and let's discuss issues
and be vulnerable with your wife. We've said it particularly with your wife. It's okay. It's okay to cry. Do you know what? This is why we are here. Go on your wife's lap and cry. It's okay, and it's absolutely good and healthy for your own physical and emotional well-being. So gender differences being number one. The second thing, which we've touched upon on our previous episodes, is the issue of family backgrounds. And this as well goes to the fact that sometimes boys growing up, they were told that, you know what, men don't cry, men don't talk about their problems.
You just sort them out right there. You know, if it's fight, you fight. When it's done, leave it there, dust yourself, come home, it's fine.
Yes. And they were told, some were told even to hide your feelings. No matter how you feel inside, don't talk about it. You know, like sometimes the language that we used to hear is ignore it, just ignore it. Like ignore your feelings, ignore what is going on inside of you. So could it be that your spouse is not talking because of the way they are brought up? They are brought up to be told that, do you know what? Don't share your feelings, don't talk about it. And the issue of childhood experiences as well. You know, depending, you know, growing up, we grow up in different schools, and sometimes we were told, you know what, you can't talk, just be quiet. Whenever you want to say something, you're foolish.
Yeah, nobody listens to you because what you say is not as constructive as others are. Sometimes they'll say you are not as articulative as others are. So you end up, you know, thinking, or you grow up with this mentality that I'm not the one to speak. I would rather die in silence instead of humiliating myself to the other person. So if I'm going to say anything, it's not going to be as much valuable.
Absolutely. I was just trying to remember one post that one of my friends sent to me, that a group of men were gathered, and now the husband said, oh, it was time for him to speak. And the wife had to shush him and say, you, like, be quiet. You don't have anything productive to say. So we have people like that. They grew up being told that you can't speak. There's nothing substantial that you're going to say. You know, nobody will listen to you. So if they have grown up in that environment, they may find it difficult to talk, and they will just go in a shell. The other differences as well is in personality.
Yes, Priscilla and I, where we come from, I would refer, if you haven't watched, a guy by the name Mark Gunga. There's one of his sessions, I forgot the name of the chart, but he differentiates, he puts
the tale of two brains, is it? Oh no.
No. He puts people into categories, into countries. Groups. So he called them countries. Then there's the fun country, there's this country, and the peace country. So there are some. Priscilla comes from the peace country. So if you come from that, if it's your personality, you don't want to address issues.
I want to keep my peace.
Let it slide and all this stuff. Then there are those of us who come from the fun country. Everything is funny.
They don't care.
We can't. Sometimes you want to discuss serious issues, and I just look at it. You know what?
Like that's nonsense. You're like, no, this is not nonsense. This is serious.
Do you think that's a serious thing? Let's go to the supermarket. Let's go and buy food. Then boom. So those differences in personality can shut the other person, because they feel like, you know what, I'm just a humble person. Let me remain humble. Let me remain cool. Or the talkative one say, I won't talk about it, because if I talk about it, they will say, you talk too much. This is who you are.
And all these differences really, they detect how we respond to situations. So when other people are going through, some will talk about it like freely. They are free to share their emotions. And other people, they will just hide it. They'll go in a closet. Like I was raised by a mom who would, you know what, just go and cry if somebody hurts her. You know, if you step on a toe, she'll just go in a closet and cry. And I remember saying to myself, you know what, this is gonna be me as well. So I'm that type of person as well. You can step on me like many times, like seriously, and I'll be like, you know what, I'd rather keep my peace, because that is me as a person. So it is good to understand that as well. Is your spouse not talking because that is their personality? That is who they are. Yep.
Yeah. Alfred Munyawiri says yes. Kudzie is from the fun country for sure. Yes, that's
but it can be very
one of my old friends.
annoying.
That's so bad. That's so
Oh. And now the thing is, it can be very, very annoying, but that is who we are. That is who we are.
Our personality.
Yeah. And the final that we're going to just group together is value system or beliefs, religious beliefs.
Yes. This is very critical to those of us who grew up in a Christian setup or in a religious setup.
Yeah.
We grew up with a mother who believed that everything, bless my mom, she's still alive, but everything, mama would say, one subject that we learned, me and my brothers, we dubbed it neology, whereby anything you face, you just have to kneel down and pray.
And it's
you
good.
Don't talk about it, you don't confront anybody, you just get into the room, you shut the door, and you pray.
Full stop.
So sometimes your spouse is not speaking because they are that person who believes in neology. They just get into the room, pray, and they are waiting for a change. But we want to say this, that sometimes, yes, prayer is good, but pray to God to give you the wisdom to sit down and articulate the issues. Pray to God to give you the wisdom to sit down and share with the person, because just praying and shutting the person away alone is not enough. They may think that you are giving them a silent treatment and boom.
Yes, and apart from them thinking that you're giving silent treatment, sometimes silence is interpreted as approval.
Yes.
You're silent because you approve. So if you're doing something that constantly hurts me, if I don't talk about it, then he's going to be like, oh, my wife likes that. My wife approves of what I'm doing. My wife is happy about it. So is your spouse not talking because of their religious beliefs, whereby they think everything, just pray about it? Don't talk to anybody, talk to God. But what we are saying is, yes, talk to God, ask God for wisdom, ask God for the right direction in order for you to speak to your spouse. And when you do speak to your spouse, things may change.
Talking of approval, which Priscilla have just touched on, we've got a couple that we are working with. The wife started to suspect that the husband was cheating.
Yeah.
And she didn't confront it.
Yes.
Now she reached a point whereby she caught the husband red-handed.
Yeah.
Once, twice, three times. And she did not speak about it. All she was doing was to come and tell us, you know what? I know that this is what my husband is doing.
Yes.
I
have after my marriage.
I have all the evidence.
Yeah.
And we said, so why can't you confront him and speak? Say, I'm praying about it. I'm praying about it. The moment she wanted to speak about it, when she came with the husband said, yeah, but she knows about everything. She knows everything. What else is new?
To him, it was like she already approves of it.
She doesn't care about it. I mean, she knows everything and she doesn't care. So yes, some might interpret it as a sign of approval. You are approving my behavior. You are approving my habits.
Yep. And while she was silently praying, this other relationship was getting stronger. They were bonding and getting stronger. And the husband thought, you know what? My wife knows about it. My wife approves of my behavior. So it is good to pray. But I like what one preacher says: after you finished praying, get up from your knees and do what you're supposed to do.
Yep.
If I need to, I really found this difficult. And in some cases, it was Kudzie from the fun country who had to say to me, do you know what? No, you are going to have to confront this. Because I found certain things difficult to confront. And he had to tell me that, you know what? It's not okay for you to be quiet. It's not okay for people to step on your toes like that, and not at least just speak to them. Tell them this hurts. It hurts. It's a different case if you tell them and they choose not to do anything about it. But it's okay for me to say, babe, what you're doing, it hurts me. I'm not happy with it.
This.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not happy with this.
Yes, so this is what we had time for today. What we are basically saying is that why is your spouse not talking? And like what Kudzie mentioned earlier, that is going to be a 2-part series. So we'll be bringing more points next week. And if you have any points, please do throw them in so that when other people catch the replay, they are able to learn more. So point number 1 may be a failure to make time.
Yep.
Probably you're failing to make time. Point number 2, the last point we mentioned was the differences. And the second point was physical and emotional energy.
Yes.
They may not be in the right state of mind. And yes, Nelson.
Yes, the homework is coming.
The homework
Priscilla,
is
please
coming.
give us the homework.
So the homework for tonight is that, you know, plan a time that you and your spouse will sit down for a meaningful conversations. This is a time where you're going to say, on such a date, we are planning, we're going to talk about the things, our thoughts, our feelings, what is going on inside of us.
Yep.
And when you have that moment, take away all kinds of distractions, take away the mobile phones, and just be in this space where 2 of you are open to one another. And we want you to ask your spouse, what can I do to help you communicate better? What can I do as a spouse? Because, by the way, I can do something to help him communicate better. So what can I do to help you communicate better?
Yes, thank you so much for watching. If you're watching as a replay, we would also ask you to share with friends and family so that they benefit from this. For me and my beautiful wife, we are signing out till we meet again. God bless you.
Love you all.